They say it takes a village to raise a child. But what happens when the village is silent? When I was a teenager, my parents fostered a young girl. Let's call her Kemi. Kemi was the sweetest girl you could ever meet. And my 3 sisters and I were excited at the prospect of welcoming home another girl. My father entered into an arrangement with the orphanage that meant Kemi could come and spend Easter and Christmas holidays in our home. He would also pay for all her financial needs and also pay her education. Kemi won our hearts very quickly. She won our hearts with her smile, her charm, her wit, her innocence. When Kemi was not staying with us, she continued to live at the orphanage. I never really liked orphanages. I remember thinking, why can't the children just go home? Groups of 20 children huddled together, straining for the attention of 2 adults. They, in turn, trying their best to give to each child what they truly do not have the capacity to give to each of them at the same time. Attention, love, care, hope. Food timetables that tick the basic nutritional needs. Bored, distant eyes. We tell the story of how each of them was brought to the orphanage. Kemi was such a joy to us. At the end of every term, the school would send us her end of term results because my father was paying her school fees. They were consistently terrible. Kemi failed every single subject. At some point, she was advised to withdraw and go and learn a trade because, in their opinion, Kemi lacked the intellectual ability to succeed at even that basic level of academia. This enraged us as a family. But there was very little we could do at the time because, you see, Kemi was not up for adoption. Did we wonder if Kemi's story would have been different if she grew up with us? Yes, all the time. But this also got me thinking about adoption as I looked around and I realized that at the time, I didn't know of any couple who had adopted a child. So, the lawyer in me started asking questions. And the answers I received were similar to, it's just not in the norm of our culture to adopt children. Why adopt when you can create your own child? People will think you're infertile. Or, what if the child does not fit into your family? You see, we seem to find comfort in even the slightest blood connection to us before we feel comfortable bringing a child home. But yet, behavioral science has taught us that nurture often trumps nature. A few years after my experience with Kemi, I relocated to England to study. I ended up living in England for several years after that, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time in England. One of the things that stood out for me was the perception of adoption. People were adopting and letting the world know. Children were being promptly placed in orphanages. Adopters were seen as humanitarian champions. I was intrigued. This was different from where I was coming from. I remember making up my mind at that time that I too would adopt when the time was right. I was angry with Nigerians. I thought, why couldn't we welcome children into our homes and raise them as part of our family? Why are we so comfortable delegating this task to orphanages that clearly do not have the capacity to give to these children what a family unit can? Why must culture trump compassion? Late in my 20s, I did relocate back to Nigeria. I got married, and my husband and I adopted a beautiful baby girl. We met her when she was just 2 days old. In our eyes, she's perfect. in our hearts, we have no doubt that she was created to be part of our family. I mean, she fits into our family like the missing part of a jigsaw puzzle. We've had the privilege of watching this once scared and traumatized baby grow into this happy and confident child. She and her sister, who we had biologically, light up our world. Were we criticized? Yes. A young couple adopting in Nigeria, it's not the norm. But that wasn't news to us. What we did find interesting was that every single time we shared our story with family and friends, they would in turn tell us about the time they or someone they knew had brought home an orphan child of a family member to live with them as part of their family. So, for instance, I have a colleague whose late sister's daughter lives with him and is in every sense of the word his daughter. I have cousins who were raised by their aunties and uncles. My husband and I have family friends who were raised by their parents' friends because they were orphans when they were children. You see, none of these scenarios are stigmatized in Nigeria. It's simply village life. As I listen to story after story of people bringing home orphan children of late family members into their home, the realization hit me. I had wrongly judged Nigerians. Nigerians are adopting, yes. In fact, Nigeria is a nation of adopters. We have been adopting for centuries. And by doing what comes so naturally to us, we have been changing the course of these children's lives from one of likely crime and prostitution to one of impact and significance. How do I know this? An American NGO called Lumos, which was founded by J.K. Rowling of Harry Potter fame. They publish statistics which tell us that 50% of children who grow up in orphanages are likely to live a life of crime and prostitution. 75% of children who grow up in orphanages often fall victim to abuse when they do leave the orphanage. 80 years of research has shown that no matter how well an orphanage is run, children cannot thrive there. 98% of children who grow up in orphanages are often segregated from their communities. 100% of orphanages focus on the care needed for the orphanage and not the child. The statistics are clear. Children were never meant to grow up in orphanages. No, that was plan B. Children were meant to grow up with a family unit. This is the understanding that Nigerians have had for centuries. It's what I call the African model of adoption, and it is plan A. So this is it. We need to go back to basics. We're Nigerians. We don't take our orphan children to orphanages, no. We take them home, comfort them over a plate of hot gari and native soup. And to our children that have somehow found their ways into orphanages, it's simple. We need to bring them back home. We need to bring them home where we can teach them about tradition and culture. We need to make them understand that we care. If we can extend our hearts to not only reaching out to our children who have been orphaned by family members, but also to children who have been orphaned and have found their way in orphanages, we will well be on our way towards eradicating orphanages. This is TEDx. We're allowed to dream big, right? It's time to change our mindsets. They say it takes a village to raise a child. You are the village.